Well, here I am, my first apology video. Not to you guys, come on, suck it up. You can't handle a little embezzlement? No, I'm apologizing to an Adventure Time game on the 3DS. See, a couple years back, I made a video reviewing Adventure Time Hey Ice King Why'd You Steal Our Garbage. It was one of my all-time favorite 3DS games, and stood in stark contrast to another Adventure Time game on the 3DS. Adventure Time Explore the Dungeon Because I Don't Know. I got this alongside Hey Ice King a couple years back, but was very disappointed by it. Adventure Time Explore the Dungeon Because I Don't Know is as the title suggests. You jump into a hole in the ground and explore a dungeon because you don't know. It's a little bit like Enter the Gungeon, but actually possible. It's kinda like Hey Ice King, except you're stuck in a dungeon with one soundtrack for 20 floors. It's a roguelike game that spans across 100 randomly generated dungeon floors. Outside of the dungeon, you'll be focused on upgrading character stats and unlocking new characters. And WayForward really knows how to make Adventure Time games. From the character sprites to the dialogue and even some fun loading screen references. But in my initial playing of this game about 2 years ago, I just didn't get it. And it wasn't entirely my fault. See, the first few floors of this game are very monotonous, and the next few, well, they don't get any better. And you've got to play them 5 floors at a time. Now, this whole 100 floors thing isn't sounding like such a good idea. Plus, you probably won't be getting any character upgrades anytime soon since they get expensive quick. And when you go to re-enter the dungeon, Princess Bubblegum IRS is all your coins away. This first hour or so of gameplay bored me away from playing any further, but this time I was determined to at least play enough to have a fair opinion on it, and what I found was, this game is absolutely awesome. I would actually say that it's just about as good as Hey Ice King, but in an entirely different way. It definitely took getting used to the fact that you have to do 5 levels at a time before you can come back up, and the fact that you can't carry gold over to the next run. But once I started trying some other characters and earning noticeable upgrades for them, the whole context around the game started to shift, and it became much more enjoyable. Now, the 20 FPS and glitchy audio from my emulator wasn't the best.
Wow! Items, grabbing items.
Do you like to throw eggs at things?
But I love these fun lines from the playable characters and from BMO on the bottom screen. I was kinda surprised that there was so much dialogue using the characters' actual voice actors. Well, that was until I got into the main hub area.
Wah 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 wah.
But I'm not complaining, this is hilarious. I know I mentioned it before, but this game really feels like Adventure Time, not just some game dressed up as Adventure Time. I just love the 2D character sprites set on a stylized 3D background. It's so fun to look at. You know, if my emulator wasn't making it super not fun to look at. But this game's just got such a strong Adventure Time character to it, all the way down to the dungeon crawling gameplay. The combat is generally responsive and feels pretty good, except for the fact that you need a special token to make your block ability prevent damage. You know, to make it block. Otherwise, you need to time the block just right for it to actually work. But if you can accept that you've just got to run away from incoming attacks because you're too skillless to parry that crap, the combat can be plenty fun. And just when you start to get bored of the typical dungeon fare, you get a boss at floor 10. And after 20 floors, you get to explore a new dungeon theme with a much needed new dungeon song. The soundtrack of this game is pretty good, but listening to the same song for 20 floors can get old. So it's a relief that they introduce some new tracks and new colors and enemies every once in a while. The more time I put into this game, the more I felt like coming back to it later and going a little further, seeing if I can't get a new token or reach a new boss. It's got a really good dungeon crawl feel to it that I think is definitely worth experiencing if you're a fan of these kinds of games or even just a fan of Adventure Time. This game is good fun. But wait, it gets better than Explore the Dungeon for the 3DS. Elden Ring. Imagine exploring a dungeon, and then leaving the dungeon and having an absolutely massive world to explore full of unique encounters and secret areas and quest lines. But if that sounds like too much fun, there's also Explore the Dungeon for the Wii U. While this may not be Elden Ring, it is a much better version of Explore the Dungeon for the 3DS. Or more accurately, Explore the Dungeon for the 3DS is a watered down version of Explore the Dungeon on the Wii U. Because on the Wii U, we've got multiplayer. And I mean, just by playing the 3DS version, you can quickly tell this is supposed to be a multiplayer game. There are all kinds of vestigial multiplayer traits just lying around. It makes you feel like you should be playing with other players, even though that's not even an option. And it's really a shame they couldn't get multiplayer into the 3DS version, because it makes the Wii U version so much funner. But even if nobody wants to play a Wii U Adventure Time game with you for some reason, this is just a better version of the game. There are a good handful of enemies and features that pop up every once in a while that I never encountered on the 3DS version. Plus, the soundtrack is considered considerably larger. You get a few more songs with each dungeon theme. Graphically, it does look a little bit better, but most of the visual difference here is because of the emulators. We also have actual voice acting for all of the text dialogue, but I don't know that that's strictly an upgrade.
Wah 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 wah.
Wow, 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 wow.
But if you can, this is a game very worth playing with others. The difference in character playstyles and the variety of enemies and power-ups gives rise to dynamic gameplay and multiplayer antics. So while I would suggest playing the Wii U version, I can still definitely recommend the 3DS version. It's got that same addictive roguelike gameplay at its core. If you're a fan of dungeon crawling games or just Adventure Time, I know you'll love this game. You've just got to get past that first painful, boring hour of gameplay. So far, I've really enjoyed every Adventure Time game I've played. All 2 of them. I'm excited to see what the rest of them have to offer. Anyways, I'll talk to you later. Thanks.